Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ma'am, thank you for being here. I want to go back real quickly to what Mr. Nagelbauer from Texas was talking about with the dicamba and the 2,4-D issue.
Yeah.
There's been several things that have been approved by the USDA for months, and farmers start planting cotton in his state in March. In my state, it's more in April, but it takes time to get the chemicals produced and through the distribution network and to the farm. And if y'all take much longer, quite honestly, they're not going to be available for us this year. And so I appreciate your commitment to help the farmer. I hope that we will see you act on these pending registrations sooner rather than later. And I think that's one of the breakdowns that we have between the government and the public and the farmer, is that it seems that the people in the agencies have no idea when farmers even plant their crops, and what the agencies are doing to the cost of those crops. And can you tell me what cotton's trading for? Do you know?
I can't, sir. No.
It's below the cost of production right now, and so are a lot of the other commodities. And so when you take an area like mine that produces a tremendous amount of cotton every year, and cotton is below the cost of production, you would typically look to another commodity, but they're also below the cost of production. And I appreciate your comment that you're trying to help the farmer and the farm, but the government's getting in the way of the farmer being able to survive through these tough economic times, and things like approving these chemicals sooner rather than later would at least help us determine what crop we can plant. And I want to go to the neonic issue right now, and I certainly understand the value of pollinators. I mean, without bees, you'd lose the majority of the food in the world. But there's situations with the pollinator and the preliminary risk assessment. And specifically cotton, which I was talking about earlier, is a self-pollinating crop, and it doesn't require bees. So did the EPA take that into account as part of its assessment with pollinators, that cotton does not require bees for pollination?
I think I'll have to go back, sir. Are we talking about, which chemical are we talking about in particular?
The neonics as a whole, the whole class.
Oh, certainly. We certainly are. We are not making broad brush decisions on neonics. We're looking at each of them. And in fact, the decisions that we have been proposing have been very specific to look at being specific to the crop as well as the time of year, and what we can do to both protect the bee colonies as well as make sure that these are available when they're appropriately used.
I'll take that as a commitment that you'll continue to work with the industry and the registrants, and I appreciate that. Are you familiar with the agency's proposed rule on greenhouse gas emissions and fuel efficiency standards for medium and heavy duty engines and vehicles, phase 2?
Yes.
It's so would you agree also that Congress has excluded non-road vehicles that are used solely for competition from EPA regulatory reach?
Ooh. I believe that is the case, but I'm not as familiar with that as I am my standard rulemaking process, ongoing rulemaking process.
Fair enough. According to the EPA website, Congress did. It's one of the things.
I believe so.
We talk a lot about the things that we told you to do, but there are also things that we specifically tell the EPA that you do not have the authority to do. And one of those, I agree with what you said, that you don't have
I don't think so.
the authority to regulate competition vehicles. I'm concerned about the fact that in this 629 some odd page rule that's supposed to deal with greenhouse gas emissions for medium and heavy duty engines, that in the kind of the catch-all provision, that the rule has attempted to bring back in to regulation competition vehicles. And I agree with you 100% that you don't have the authority to do that. And so I appreciate you telling me that you
Well, Mr. Scott, let me get back to you. I'm sure if that was part of the proposal, we've received a lot of comments on it. I'm happy to close the loop with you on it. We certainly have not finalized that rule. We're considering all the comments. But if you think that there was a disconnect, I'm happy to connect with you on it individually if you'd like.
I agree with you that Congress specifically said that you don't have the authority to regulate competition vehicles, and ma'am, I appreciate your time, and it's just kind of, it's very disconcerting as an American to see that in a 40,000 pages of rules and regs that we have an agency that would put something in a heavy-duty vehicle rule that deals with race cars.
Chairman's time has expired. Ms. Plaskett.